Just a little FYI, channel memberships are now open. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a new way available. Really hope you'll check it out. If not, you can always check out my Patreon as always. Be sure to sign up for either of those for exclusive content, but without further delay, let's get on to the video. Good morning. Today, we are going to talk about a controversial topic that has taken me a full 2 years to form an opinion on, a solid opinion, and one that I am going to share with you now. We are going to be talking about AI. It seems to be quite the conversation right now as AI is advancing and advancing and advancing that is going to take over every aspect of our lives soon enough, take away all of our jobs, and of course, take away movie making jobs, because of course, AI can make fake-looking, glossy, horrifying videos leeching off of other people's work, and so of course that is going to be the future of all movie making, and it is a bright future indeed, right? Yes, I know I was just taking a jab at AI and how awful the videos look right now, and of course that is instantly going to be followed by the people in favor of AI and the tech people out there saying AI will improve. Well, AI already has improved, and the problem with it still remains that I'm going to talk about in this video, but hold up. Before you click off this video, before you think that you've decided that you know what my opinion on AI is, it's a bit more nuanced than you think. Now, there are two reactions to AI. The two very extreme reactions, and it seems that there's very little in the middle. The first reaction is to treat AI as witchcraft. That the second you see something made by AI, then generative AI is what I'm talking about in this video, you just cry witchcraft, you fall into hysterics, and I want to say, I don't think that that helps things. I don't think that flying into hysterics over everything as is popular on corners of the internet, if not all the internet, I don't think that that actually helps the conversation. Of course, the other side of the AI conversation is people who gloat and laugh at those falling into hysterics and say that this is the way of the future, this is going to take away your jobs. Art is dead, filmmaking is dead, and we're in a new world now, as the thousands of annoying astroturfed AI promotion bots on social media have told me from people trying to sell their tech to people. I want to say, shut up on that level as well, because a lot of times there will be a video, once again, that looks like this glossy fake image, and they'll be accompanied by some sort of promotional post that'll say, the future is now, this industry is dead, with a bunch of people underneath talking about how fake and horrifying it looks, and then the person who originally posted the advertisement or the bot or whoever it may be saying, well, it's only going to get better. And that's the big conversation about AI, is that whatever we see about it that's negative now, it's only going to improve, and therefore there's nothing that you can say against it, because we've seen this over and over again, right? That this is the big argument. We've seen it over and over again throughout history, that if people reject a new piece of technology, what eventually happens is the new piece of technology becomes prominently used and those people are obsolete. That whenever there's a new discovery of technology, there's always people who are fearful and resistant of it, because new technology means change. It means a great shift, and change is scary, you know? And because of that, I wanted to wait a long time before I actually formed an opinion on AI, because I did want to recognize human beings historically are very resistant to things new experiences, new ways of living, and so that might be a lot of the hysteria. But I gave myself time to actually watch AI and even play with it myself and actually understand it. And I have to say, I do not think that this is the actual future of movie making and the replacement like people think that it is. I don't think that it's a replacement for a lot of things in the art community. And I am not saying that AI is not going to have its place or it's not going to have its uses. And you have to understand that AI is a broad term. We have AI in Premiere Pro, which I use. We have AI in search engines already, and it's already becoming more useful. So I am not talking about how AI in and of itself is evil and that it can't be used and that we need to shun it, or that it's even possible to shun it at this point. However, what I am talking about here is generative AI, and why I do not at all think that it can be a replacement for, in this case, what I'm going to be talking about is movie making, like people think that it is. So my experience with AI, because people were telling me, I do short films, I'm planning on doing a feature film, so why don't I use it to create some storyboards? So I was like, okay, it doesn't sound bad to use AI for concepts, but here's the big problem with AI, generative AI, people need to understand, is that it can only ever copy what has come before. It needs to take inspiration from that and create images based on that. So that's a huge conversation, that using it at all is plagiarism. Like, what's the difference between using AI and just tracing over someone else's work? And I agree with that. That is a huge problem with AI. Not only is it stealing other people's work, but it can never create anything original. It can only ever train off of things that have come before. But I thought, there's no problem in using it just to give yourself some quick concepts. So I tried to generate myself some storyboards, and I typed in a prompt and I didn't get what I was wanting, and I typed in another prompt, didn't get what I was wanting, typed in another prompt, got something even worse, typed in another prompt, got something even better, and I worked at this for a long time. This is the abridged version of the story, is I did spend some time trying to use AI and get something I wanted just to see some concept for something of what it could look like. And what I found was I could never get exactly what I wanted in my head from the generative AI. And I thought, well, of course, obviously, I'm just going to have to get better at typing in these prompts to the computer so that it understands, so it finally gets what I was thinking of. But then I thought, why would I spend hours upon hours getting better at typing in prompts to a computer so it can take somebody else's work and maybe get something that I was thinking of, when I could just spend all those hours practicing my own art and creating my own storyboards that would be what I wanted them to be and would be my own work and would be original to me, myself, And so that's why I just became disillusioned. I'm like, I would just rather make storyboards myself. And by the way, I'm not saying that anybody who uses AI to make a quick concept, not using it to claim it's their own, but just to use it to make a quick concept to present it. I'm not saying anything against those people, but I'm saying for me, I was like, why would I spend all this time trying to learn how to type prompts into a computer, which doesn't even feel like actually art to me, when I could just spend all those hours making something on my own? And I realized, maybe this can't create what's in my head because the images in my head don't exist yet because they're my own creation. This AI can only train off of other people's work that already exists. And other experiences with AI, there's a lot of videos out there that do show concepts, like what would The Little Mermaid look if it was live action in the 1960s? But a lot of these videos, I got really tired of that glossy fake feel of them. I got tired of the slow-mo. I got tired of the feeling of AI videos. Other places, like seeing music, for example, I saw a video that was like Frank Sinatra sings this modern song.
As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I take a look in my life and realize there's nothing left.
And I clicked it and I realized, oh, this is not Frank Sinatra singing a song. This is actually stolen from Postmodern Jukebox, which is YouTubers who convert modern songs into old styles with a Frank Sinatra filter over it.
As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I take a look in my life and realize there's nothing left.
But it's not actually him singing, because even if the filter sounds like him, it's not making the choices that he would make in terms of how he would sing the song. Like there was another one with Ariana Grande and AI music of her, and I'm like, this is not making the same choices she would make. She would probably bust out into high note right here. This is not actually her. And so the novelty of AI wore off very quickly for me, and everyone says it's going to get better. It's going to get better. It already has gotten better. Like AI images already have more detail. They already look more realistic than they did in the beginning. The problem is not the look of AI, even though it makes it identifiable. The problem is more so the feeling for me, that there is always a fakeness to AI, because it's like my body and my mind is already trained to recognize it as fake. It's just a computer almost creating a still image. It's sort of even like a dream of something in real life. AI looks like a vague dream always, no matter how much it has already advanced in terms of mimicking movement and details from real life. It just still always has that fake feeling to me. And that is very important when we're talking about filmmaking. Because once again, people are saying it's going to take over. It's going to be able to mimic somebody to look real. It's going to be a replacement for actors and singers and all of that. Here is the problem. I don't think people arguing that really understand filmmaking. Filmmaking, obviously, in the name, is technology. Filmmaking doesn't exist without technology. We need technology for our films. And there are things over the years that we couldn't do before that new technology, like, for example, CGI, has opened the doors for. So, of course, we would be foolish not to explore new technology and its applications. Once again, I'm not saying that AI couldn't possibly have any application in it. Of course, you are having to get over what I would say is the biggest hurdle it can only ever take from somebody else's work. But here's what I want you to understand. Filmmaking, like all storytelling, is creating the illusion of reality, and there are different methods to help that work. And there are various things where the technological advancements we've already had, and we have more technology available for filmmaking than ever. CGI, green screens, color grading, so many post-production materials, all of it. Yet, our films actually look and are made worse than ever now, even before AI was really taken off. You might ask how? Like, we have more money, more access to all of these tools than ever. How are our films possibly getting worse? How are films made decades ago when there wasn't as much technology or money behind filmmaking actually better than they are now? It's the application of this kind of stuff. Once again, a big thing about filmmaking is the feeling of authenticity. Like, obviously, the stories you're watching aren't real. They're all done with tricks to make you think they're real, but there are better tricks than others to make it feel real. I want to give you a big example of this. Steven Spielberg's first ever feature film was Duel. It was just originally supposed to be a TV movie. Spielberg was a brand new young director they didn't have a lot of faith in, but Spielberg wanted to make this film, and he fought with the studio to get this one element of it right. The studio, since this was just going to be a cheap made-for-TV film, wanted the movie Duel, which is all about a duel between two cars. It's a soft horror movie where a serial killer in a truck chases down a small car. And the studio wanted Spielberg to do it shooting off of blue screens. There would be a blue screen behind the actor pretending to drive a car, and that's how they would shoot the film. And Spielberg fought and said no, because when you have someone driving a car in front of a blue screen, there is always that feeling of fakeness to it. The studio did not want to film it on location like Spielberg wanted to, because it was harder, it was going to be more time consuming, but Spielberg insisted it has to be shot live, and we have the technology now to actually have the cameras on the cars. We can do it. And so finally they gave in and let Spielberg do it, and he shot the film, and it was a huge success, so huge it actually got moved up from a made-for-TV movie and started to be shown in theaters. And the key element of this movie that made it work is the car race feels real. Why? Because Spielberg fought to have it shot where it would feel the most authentic, and that was actually shooting the cars on location, not in front of blue screens with people pretending to drive. It would have been cheaper to do the blue screen thing, but he knew that the more authentic, better feeling, the better way to do it was to be shooting it on location. And we can see examples of that today. As we become so saturated in green screens and CGI and all of those things, why was Top Gun Maverick so successful? Well, not only did it have a great story, great editing, all of those things, but Top Gun Maverick would not have worked if they had shot those plane scenes on green screen. Do you guys know that they actually took the actors of Top Gun Maverick, gave them flight training lessons so that they would be able to go up in the sky, in the jets, with cameras and actually shoot the scenes in the air, and that is why it feels so real and exciting? It would have been so much cheaper, so much easier, and so much safer to just shoot all of that with green screens behind them, but Tom Cruise wanted that authentic feeling for that, and that's why he put all the effort to do that. And that is why Top Gun Maverick was such an experience in the theater to watch, and that's why the stunts of Tom Cruise are still so amazing to watch, because he actually does them. He doesn't just go for the cheap method, which would be using new technology in order to shoot this stuff. He goes for what is going to feel the most real and authentic. That is not to say that things like CGI, green screens, and so many other of these tools are bad things. There are a lot of things that we couldn't do without CGI. Like, we couldn't have all these superhero movies or characters like the Hulk or Thanos without CGI. There are things that you just can't do without a green screen. But you might want to notice now that while CGI for a lot of years was actually a draw to the theater, films like Avatar blowing people's minds with new technology, couldn't wait to watch it, now more and more films are criticized for using CGI. We've said time and time again, CGI slop fest. In fact, there's a lot of post-production materials that are available to us now that the use of them has actually encouraged laziness. Let's talk about one, for example. I hate color grading. But it's actually not that I hate color grading, it's just I hate how it's been applied. Color grading in and of itself is not a bad tool. It's also one like CGI that's getting a lot of talk these days because of just how bad films look. This is one of the first lessons I actually learned as a filmmaker, that if your film looks bad with the lighting and the way it's shot, then color grading is not going to save it. Because color grading should be a sprinkling on the top. It can enhance certain colors, it can bring about filters, things like that. And there are movies, great examples of color grading being used correctly. But these days, it's become more and more of a crutch. And an odd thought is that it's some sort of requirement for films these days. Let me tell you how it's actually made lighting in films worse. How lighting in films used to look amazing. And the reason why is because they without color grading technology, they would have to commit to a look on set. They would have to commit to a look with lighting. And the way that they would use lighting is they actually applied laws and methods created by famous painters like Rembrandt. Rembrandt lighting is the most common way of lighting a film, or at least it used to be, where you would always light so that there would be a triangle of shadow on an actor's face to give them a shape, to give sculpture to your films. And that's why so many films used to look good. Like X-Men The Last Stand looks amazing by today's standards because they actually use this method. But the problem that happened as a combination of green screens and color grading is they started to become a replacement and a crutch for those methods. These days, the way they shoot films is they don't want to commit to a look. They want to have the producers want to be able to change things on a whim with green screens and not actually make any commitment to a creative look. And so, but the result of that is they don't actually like to give the actors' faces or environments shape anymore. They light everything flat so that they can add on the green screen CGI backgrounds, and so that they can add on color grading now. And the result is a lot of films look awful. They look flat in people's eyes. They don't have that shape that they used to. And it's so weird that color grading is constantly barfed out on all films and always used as a requirement, and oftentimes by directors who don't seem to have any taste for this kind of stuff and make everything look drowned out and flat and gray and analog. And I'm like, you guys are forgetting, and there's so much obsession of talking about color grading these days, how it's used, how it's not used well, and how it must be used. And I'm like, guys, we didn't have color grading technology for decades of filmmaking, and movies actually looked better because they were forced to look natural. They were forced to commit to a look. They were forced to use lighting, which actually gave people sculpture. Why are you so obsessed with color grading to the point where not only are you not using it right, but you think that it has to be used on everything when it doesn't? And once again, color grading in and of itself is not a bad thing, but I've just come to hate it because it's been overused and misused so much. And it, along with green screens, have created an excuse from studios to be lazy, to not commit to a creative direction, and they actually forgot good methods that used to be used in the past. Basic good methods to make your actors and your environments actually look good, but they don't even care about that or acknowledge that anymore. It's like parts of the craft of filmmaking are being lost with new technology that gives people an excuse to be lazier. And it doesn't even have to be that way. It's just because of the people people behind the scenes misusing this stuff. CGI is another great example, and people will point to CGI as a comparison to AI and say that there were people in the beginning who were saying that CGI is not real art either. Well, CGI can actually make stuff from scratch even though you are still using computers, but here's the thing. Back in the day when CGI was first coming up, there were people like James Cameron who were creative people who saw a good application for CGI. James Cameron could not make the liquid Terminator for his original Terminator film. He had to wait till the new technology came out so he could do it. So he had a creative application for it, and a lot of creative people used it in a wise way, like Jurassic Park. That used a combination of animatronics and CGI. They didn't have enough CGI technology, so they used it sparingly. They used it in many scenes at night that weren't as obvious, but they mixed it with animatronics. And animatronics fascinate me in the old days because of how lifelike they would look oftentimes, and they were forced to use that because that's what they had. But there's limits to animatronics as well. Animatronics feel more lifelike, but they also can't get up and walk around in the way that CGI can do a T-Rex. But the combination of those two things and using both pieces of technology well is why I think that Jurassic Park holds up so well to this day, is that the good applications of those things were able to create a more authentic feel to it. But these days, oftentimes the term we hear used is CGI slopfest. And guess what, guys? Similar to AI, like if you're gonna talk about past experiences with new technology and how people have been resistant and how it's always taken over and that's gonna be the future with AI, I want to tell you what happened with CGI. Back in 2016, people were saying the exact same thing about CGI. They were saying that with the deep fake faces at the end of Rogue One, that CGI is just getting so good, it's just getting so lifelike, it's going to replace everything. It's going to replace all this stuff. But fast forward to nearly 10 years later, and it's kind of cool to hate on CGI these days. We've heard the term CGI slopfest a lot. We've heard people who are film nerds advocating for people to go back to more practical special effects. Why? Because CGI, despite all of its advancements, has been overused and misused. The truth is, those deepfaked images from Rogue One, they may have fooled us for a minute, but our brains tend to adjust, and we can tell that it's not real. And in the coming years, like color grading, like green screens, CGI became used as a crutch from studios so that they wouldn't have to commit to anything. They could just fix it in post. They could just change it in post. We still see that CGI and stuff like Godzilla -1 can be used well. But the problem is, and why we've come to dislike it rather than become bedazzled by it, is because it's been overused and used badly. Because let me tell you, as much as there are things that only CGI can create, there is always that feeling that it's not real. It's not actually there. We can always tell. That's why to this day they've actually gone back and used animatronics again, because animatronics once again can't do what CGI can do, but there is more of an authentic feel. Christopher Nolan for The Odyssey is going to use puppetry and animatronics for the Cyclops. Why? Why would he be doing that when he can just use CGI? Because he's likely recognizing there's an authentic feeling that animatronics give that CGI does not always give. But the only reason why we're really rejecting CGI, even though there's some great CGI creations out there, is because it has been overused and misused by the people behind the scenes. They don't give their CGI artists enough of a direction or a timeline to work on them. They are just using it as a crutch so that they can change things on the fly from their poor, overworked CGI artists and not have to commit to anything. There's no intent behind it. There's no real art. It's just how can we use this new technology to fit in our quick content mill. And other ways that CGI has been misused is, for a long time, game companies has been trying to use the more realistic CGI that we have to have more and more realistic games, but now we're seeing gamers push against that and say that they don't want things to look more and more real. They want designs for characters to look better and better. They want them to look good. It doesn't matter if it's realistic. And that's how, like, back just 10 years ago, we went from people saying that CGI is the future, it's going to take over everything, to actually having people despise CGI, but they really don't despise CGI or any of these tools. They despise how it's been used. And that's what I want to say about AI, is it's not as simple as people are resistant to new technology, and therefore anybody who criticizes AI is just a dinosaur who's gonna die out. The concern is, these days, when we're talking about art and creativity, we are in the least creative time we've ever been in. We're in a time where we already have a vast amount of technology at our disposal, but we aren't using it correctly. We're forgetting forgetting basic techniques and methods and using new technology as an excuse for laziness. And it's just because it's cheaper and easier does not actually make it better. And then AI comes into play, and you need to recognize it can't create anything new. And I would posture, like, you keep saying that it's going to get more and more realistic looking, and it already is, but what I would argue is, can it be more authentic feeling? Or is it going to be just like CGI, where no matter how realistic it would get, realistic CGI would fool me for a minute, but then my brain would adjust and it would be able to note that what I was seeing wasn't real. So how can you say that the same won't happen with AI and that we won't just always adjust and see it as not real? I mean, another example I didn't use is autotune. Autotune, fine if you want to touch up an actor who can't sing, who has to just hum a few bars in a show. But when you use it as an excuse because you want to cast a celebrity in a musical who can't sing, and then you try to auto-tune it to death and think that that is going to sound good, it doesn't sound good. Technology can be used as a sprinkling on the top. It can be used to help make something come true, but it is never a replacement for actual authenticity. It is never a replacement for something that's actually real. So with AI, I'm just not bedazzled by all of these Studio Ghibli filters out there that people are using. Everyone who uses the same filter on something is not creating their own stamp of art. Someone who creates their own art is going to have its own life to it. It's going to have the flaws that are only authentic to you. It's going to have the style that's only authentic to you. Something that goes through a computer generator that everyone uses, there's no distinguishing if it was made from one person or another person. So how can AI be used in the future? Well, once again, I think the big hurdle is that it can only ever base itself off of what's come in the past. An application for that could be, if you're a CGI artist, you create your own individual design, you can have AI then copy that design and help with some of the frames of that design. Like, that is already some technology that is used in Premiere Pro. When you're masking things, AI can help you with doing some of the frames itself. It's not perfect, but that's an example of how AI technology could be used. It could be used for voice modulation. I might have to use AI in order to modulate my voice if I'm creating a presentation of a concept for a film, but that would just be a temporary fix for me not having an actor. That doesn't mean the point of it is to give an example of what it could be so that I can get an actual actor involved. I don't have a problem with people using AI for memes or concepts, but in terms of saying that it's going to be a replacement for everything, I don't understand that, because one of my big problems with films lately is that none of it feels authentic. It's all on a content mill. It's all slop. None of it is made with people with a real creative vision that they're excited about. It's all just a churn. And it's unfortunate and perfectly understandable that the same producers who are already misusing technology and just using it as an excuse for being lazy and not realizing it's not actually making things better, it makes perfect sense that they would jump to AI like this. And I think that they already have. We've already seen it. But what I don't understand is people on the other side who say that the way we're going to combat the slop mill that Hollywood has become is that now we're going to have AI technology to generate whatever we want. Do you really think that a bunch of people who might not have ever had enough motivation to be creative to actually work on painting or filmmaking or any of that kind of stuff, do you think that those people generating whatever brain fart comes into their mind on a computer is actually going to make art that's competitive with this machine that can only ever copy other people's works? Like, how can you complain for years that Hollywood is only ever regurgitating other ideas and then be in love with this new machine that can only ever regurgitate other ideas? And guys, it was already easy for you guys to make your own films. You have phones with cameras in your pockets. There is a lot that you can do already. If you're a person who couldn't even go with the ready and available technology you have now and make something good, then how do you think that AI is possibly going to help with that? But if Hollywood winds up being the place that goes back to more creativity and uses technology as a tool rather than a crutch, then the people making AI videos on YouTube are not going to compete with that, because ultimately, we've seen it time and time again that people do gravitate towards authenticity. I heard that AI is already taking on YouTube channels and making AI YouTube channels, and it's like, I don't want to watch that. I want to watch someone's authentic opinion coming from them, not a computer regurgitating stuff. So no, all of these posts out there about how filmmaking is dead, art is dead, AI is going to take over. Well, if it does, that's going to be pretty bleak, and it's not going to be any sort of savior that you think it is. It's just going to be more in the same direction that we're going in right now, where technology is making us actually forget techniques that worked. It's being used for laziness rather than creativity. And I understand people who think that AI might be the future in a bleak way, but what I straight up don't understand is the people who are gloating about it, like using it to laugh at other people, laugh at artists losing their jobs. Artists, as it is already, most of them don't even make a living off of it. I just don't understand the gloating over it, I guess. Someone yelled at me and was like, use AI to make your script. I'm like, I don't want to use AI to make my script. I want my script to be my own, not just regurgitated stuff from a computer taking from other people's stuff. The goal of this channel is always to strive for the best movies, the best artwork possible. And the way we're going to go forward with that is where we go back to creators and creative ideas and use new technology as tools rather than letting them define us. Actually understanding how new technology can be used and the limitations of that and where it's not going to work, not just jumping to it because it's convenient and easy. Convenient and easy does not always make things better. I think part of the reason why films of old were so much better is because technology in filmmaking was still very, very limited. Maybe part of the problem today is that we have too much access to technology, too much access, and so that anyone, even if they don't have the creativity, even if they haven't put in the effort, even if they don't actually have the skill, can access this technology, whether it's editing or color grading or whatever it is, and claim that they have experience with it, even if they're not actually good at it. I would rather struggle with my own artwork until I can make something good and develop a real understanding rather than just lazily ask a computer to do it all for me. Because one of the big things that people are forgetting that helps creativity thrive is struggle. It's not having whatever idea pop into your mind and generating that. That probably won't be any good no matter who it's coming from. Actually struggling and fighting to get your story made. Whether it's struggling against other people and their different ideas or through the limitations that you had. Limitation brings about creativity, not just being able to have everything at your fingertips all of a sudden. But that is my little ramble on AI that went on for a lot longer than I thought it would be. What did you think of this video? Do you disagree with me? If you do, you're wrong. Anyway, thank you all for watching. If you want to support this channel, remember Patreon and channel memberships are now open, and anybody who signs up gets a credit at the end of this video, and you really help support the channel by doing that. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys next time.